All right, welcome back in Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall. This one's cool. Take a look. NASA's Mars rover, Perseverance, has uncovered rocks that may hold potential signs of ancient microscopic life. That's according to scientists reporting this on Wednesday. NASA says that this is the closest we've come to discovering ancient life on Mars, although they do stress that in depth analysis is needed before reaching any conclusions. Professor Ken Gailey is with the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Iowa. I got to ask you, what if there was life on Mars, Ken? What do we stand to learn from such a thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it may take a little time before we get to the bottom of it, but it would be undoubtedly the most incredible scientific discovery of all time if we discovered life on another planet. And I think that the significance is different maybe for different people, but the big question that most astronomers I think have is just how common is life in the universe. We know there's life on the Earth, but the universe is a gigantic place. If Earth was the only planet that had life in the whole universe, it would be a remarkable waste of space. So we think that there's probably life elsewhere, but we don't know how common it is. Is it one planet per galaxy, or is almost every planet having some form of life? It's hard to say. So that's one of the main reasons that we have the Perseverance rover rolling around on the surface of Mars, is it's looking for evidence of past life and possibly even present life on Mars. But it's probably not, little green men that are going to pop up and introduce themselves and ask to be shown to our leader. It's probably going to be microbial life, or even the evidence or the footprints of microbial life. And so the announcement that you're describing right now is more around that. It's a potential footprint of microbial life.
We're not going to find Marvin the Martian. That's unfortunate to hear. What are the actual signs that were found? Something to do with carbon, correct?
Yeah, well, certainly organic matter. The key things that are thought to be needed for life are liquid water and organic matter. But we know there's liquid water on Mars. It's probably under the surface. It's very not much on the surface, but there is some evidence that there was once liquid water on the surface of Mars. And there's plenty of organic matter. So those basic ingredients are there, but what's missing is that they're coming together in the way that you need to have life. Life is a very special process. It's a complex microchemical process, and we want to see evidence that that is happening, not just the presence of water and the presence of carbon. And so, one type of process we're looking for is the process by which cells get energy, and that's called respiration. If they of the two forms, aerobic and anaerobic. So aerobic respiration is what we're doing right now. We breathe air from the atmosphere, and what we do is we combine that air with organic material. And here's how it works. Organic material has electrons in it that it's not affinite. It's not very closely bonded to. It's easy to give up those electrons. And it gives those electrons to the oxygen that we breathe. And the oxygen just loves to have electrons. So it releases energy when we do that. And that's the fundamental way that we get energy. We stand up and walk across the room by pushing electrons from organic matter into oxygen. That's called aerobic respiration. But there isn't free oxygen in Mars. So the microbes on Mars would need a different type, which is called anaerobic respiration. And anaerobic respiration can work in many ways, but one way it can do it is it can take organic matter and it can push the electrons into sulfur. Sulfur doesn't have quite the affinity for electrons that oxygen has, but it still releases energy if you put electrons into the sulfur from the organic matter. And where you find the sulfur is in compounds like sulfate. And when you push the electrons into the sulfate and release energy, it turns it into a different kind of a compound called a sulfide. And so that's the basic footprint that they're looking for, is sulfates, which are like a source of energy that can be used by organic matter in a wet environment and turn it into sulfides. And so this Perseverance rover is in a place called the Jezero crater, which is thought to be a wet environment. We see sedimentary rock that looks like it was deposited in water. And in that rock, we see these features called poppy seeds and leopard spots. And the Mars scientists love to name things after what they look like. And, obviously these are all new. What are poppy seeds? What are leopard spots? But they're mineral deposits that involve sulfates and sulfides. And they're in an environment where there's organic material and water. So these are the basic fundamental footprints that you could have for anaerobic respiration. Now, it's not the only way to make these minerals. So NASA's not saying we have discovered the smoking gun of life, but it is, life will be discovered on Mars in stages. And the first stage was the discovery of water, and that's pretty much already happened. And the next stage will be the discovery of the actual microchemical processes of life. And so this is really the first example of that second kind of stage of discovery. So it's kind of a big deal, although, again, we're not 100% sure by any means that this is life on Mars, but it's what you'd want to see if you think there is, or was anyway, life on Mars.
Something that I think gets lost on people sometimes is they don't realize that these rovers are massive. This thing is the size of a car. It's got, I think, 4.5 years of mileage on it so far. It's been roaming since 2021, I believe. It carries a drill, it penetrates rocks, and then it has tubes to hold the samples that it gathers. My question is, how do they get those samples back home? That's what needs to happen in order to make that confirmation of life, correct?
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So right now, all of these discoveries that we're talking about have been done with the technology that they built into the rover. And so they knew that that would be the first stage, would be to see this evidence. But they also knew that the best thing to do would be to analyze the samples in a laboratory. And that will require getting it back to Earth. But there was not really a plan for how we were going to do that when the rover was sent. The rover is collecting the materials and it's getting them ready to be transported back to Earth. But to actually do that is a whole other mission. And there have been proposals, but they're very expensive. And so at the moment, NASA does not have a clear plan on how it's going to do this. But when it does have a plan, those samples will be ready, and it will be very exciting to get them back here to laboratories on Earth.
I guess the final question here, a lot of people have this question. I think a lot of people are curious to know, how soon could Earthlings be on the red planet? Is that something that's within the near future?
Yeah, that's a question that's is very tough to answer. I mean, it's important to recognize that Mars does not have much of an atmosphere. It has some, but not much. So it's a lot different from an environment on Earth that could really be supportive of life. You're going to need a spacesuit if you're on the surface in an environment that's protecting you from the dangers of space. So it would not be anything like life on the surface of our own planet. It would certainly be a remarkable experience to be able to walk around on the surface of Mars. But right now, NASA's plan is to use robots to do this because robots don't need air to breathe and so forth. And so we can do a lot with robots. And that's the current plan, is to use robots as if they were scientists. It's not as good as having an Earthling walking around. But the prospects for actually living there like a whole life is I think, a ways off from where we are right now.
Love talking about these stories. Fascinating stuff. Ken Gailey joining us on this Saturday with the University of Iowa. Take care. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.